Welcome to week 6, everybody. Still have a couple of you rolling in here. 2 more people out. All right, so I want to do a couple of important things today. The first was discussion of our makeup day. And I will send an email reminder for everybody. But what I have done is I put a note into the office for this Friday, the 23rd. And so you might even see it somewhere like on your roster or somewhere that the makeup class is going to be this Friday. And I'm going to just take a consensus here in just a moment. But let me hold on one second. Tom. Okay, so just let me take a quick consensus. Does Friday at noon work for you, Mark?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Jesse B?
For a bit. I have a class at 1:30.
But you can meet for an hour maybe at noon, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Jack?
What time did you say?
Noon on Friday.
No, I have a class at 1:30. So unless the meeting's gonna be more, assuming the class goes on for 3 hours.
Well, no, I'm gonna break it apart. Remember?
Oh, okay. No,
we'll all meet on Friday. I'll do attendance, and then for those of you who can't make it, which will continue here, I'll do another day. Right? I'll pick another day.
Yeah.
Paul, can you respond in the chat? Friday at noon. I'm waiting for Paul to respond. Okay, thanks, Tom. Got it. Link C?
I have class on 1:30 Friday.
Right, but we can do like an hour. We could set up an hour. Okay. So I'm going to put it in there. It might even come to you that says that the class will be at 1:30, but it will be at noon. And we'll just do a little compact thing, and then I'll put in some other times in there. Millie?
I can do noon, but I think I have to go around 2 o'clock.
No, that's fine. Perfect. It's just going to be, like I said, I'm going to break the class up into separate parts. One of the other parts might even be next week, right? Javon is not here. Okay, thank you, Paul. Got it. Christian? Assuming you don't throw all your files away again. Friday at noon, right?
Yes.
This Friday noon. That's the 23rd. That's the 23rd at noon. And it's only going to be for an hour. And then we will pick another day. It's just that I have to do the paperwork for the school, and then it's not going to be that worrisome of a thing, just because you can always just join me for my office hours as well.
It works for me.
Okay, so Daniel, we were just saying that part of the makeup class from week 1 is going to be Friday at noon. It'll just be for an hour, and then I'll make up another time, maybe even 2 more times when we can all meet. Okay, good. That works out good. And I will communicate with the school. Let me see if she's responding to me already. Nope, not yet. Okay. So just in a string of happenstances, I went to prep for today's session, and it took me over 2 hours to get my license renewed for Toon Boom. So I'm a little bit behind. I'll have to just do my demos in real time. And those demos are going to be a second version of Explosion. And then I want to cover Fire today, because Daniel's been just chomping at the bit for Fire. He wants to know how to
Well,
do.
you can tell.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell by looking at you. And then I just have a couple other little notes here that I'll roll through as we're going through today's session, with just a reminder that your volcano is due next week, week 7. All right, and then so having said that, I planned this all out that your tornado, and you probably want to write this down, everybody. Your tornado will be due on November 16th. Tornado will be due on November 16th. And with that, remember that we were covering wind and lightning and cycling again and flashing and all the fun things that make a tornado a tornado. And then your final project will be due on December 14th. And that one, like we had just said, if you wanted to move explosions or orbs or beams or glass breaking, steam, explosions, magic, and the one thing that I've added to this, and which I haven't mentioned before, is that this is one project where it doesn't have to cycle. This one can be a little bit more cinematic. You can just kind of roll with it and tell like a little narrative, a little story. And that's because I have so many animation people in the class. If you're game and you want it to cycle, go ahead and make it cycle, but it doesn't have to. Remember that when I added the cycling to the principles of animation, that was actually a very big deal just in terms of principles of animation for games. All right, everybody clear on that?
Yep, it's clear.
All right, I am still trying to work out this one strange thing, and that is that whenever I watch a short cartoon, a medium, anything animated, I always like to watch it 3 or 4 times. The first time I always like to watch it just as it is intended, with the song and the dance and the music and the voice and the whole 9 yards. And then the repeated times in watching it, I will watch part of it. I will watch the whole thing without the sound on. I will watch the whole thing just for special effects. And I'll be looking for separate little things. It's hard to do if you're in a theater. It's impossible to do if you're in a theater, but if you have your DVD or Blu-ray, or if everything's online now, you can just watch little pieces of it. And one of the things that was just catching my eye was that I'm not sure if it was in Spirited Away, or it might have been in The Wind Rises, where the Studio Ghibli had animated a bunch of clouds and they were just kind of steaming, but they faded over the distance. So in other words, the clouds, the steam, the smoke was just cycling and it was billowing. And as it went off to the screen, it dissipated. And I'm trying to figure out if there's some funky matte or some funky cross-dissolve thing that they were doing. And my note was fading over the distance. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. If I can get to it, I'll let you know. And hopefully it's something really simple. And again, this falls into that category of, gee, I wonder how that effect was done or how anything was done. And you're just looking at it going, that's pretty cool. But as soon as you start thinking to yourself, how do I do that? It changes your whole take on things. How, just your whole approach. All of a sudden, you're not looking at it just for enjoyment. You're looking at it as process. You're looking at it in terms of how can I do that and make it just completely awesome? Finishing attendance here. All right, so what I would like to do then is just, and I know not everyone is prepared to show me anything today. And I'm pretty sure Jack already showed some stuff. Jack, do you want to just show it again to
Sure.
your classmates so that they can get a look at it?
Sure thing. Hang on a sec. Do. There you go.
So there's kind of a cool thing happening here. He's got a volume of blue smoke that starts on the left and it crosses and goes over to the right, and then it goes up. And as much as you can, try to keep the essence of that in your animation. I think it's working pretty well. Actually, what happens is that it looks like when the blue reaches the middle on the right, it has the appearance of breaking apart. And even though it's the green smoke that goes off to the upper right, it kind of looks like it has a duality in that the smoke is coming apart and going two different ways. I suggested to him that we were going to talk about doing rain today, and that's actually really easy. It's just like one of the easiest things to do in special effects. And then the other thing was that his little plume of lava is in orange right there, and it's kind of coming out and plooping on the ground. I think he just has to finish it. I think you just have to kind of, and I told him that I think that what I would like you to do is look at those little lines that you've got in the background that are reminiscent. They're just kind of indicating like a crevice or the top of a hill or a node or something like that. And it might be best to get the lava to just kind of fall out of the way and hide. The other thing that you could do is that you could get the lava to burst out and hide, but you could also get the lava to kind of plumb out and sort of glomping out like as a cycle. And I know you can't see my cursor, but Jack, if you could put your cursor just right at the top of where the lava is coming out, down a little bit, right about there. So yeah, if you down a little bit and to the right. So you see those little waves right there? If you could get the lava, if you could make that look like lava cycling, that could kind of be really cool.
Actually, that was my idea. Yeah, I just didn't know how to do it yet.
Well, I showed you already.
The motion.
It's just like a flag waving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you paint it red.
Okay.
And you hide it. So you might even want another ridge of dirt so that you don't have to animate the bottom of the ridge. You're just animating like the nodes of a flag. All right, it's looking pretty good. You just have to kind of,
like that. No, I was thinking more of like it's in a ravine. So like
well, true,
like a
but
stream effect.
but
So that's still the
sometimes
same thing.
if the lava is kind of laying flat to the ground and it's moving along, it's not going to have too many clumps. It's not going to have too many outside curves where you can actually animate node to node. So it would make sense to kind of follow your little background there and just kind of gloop, gloop. It's kind of pumping out the lava.
Okay, so like flag, but just keep it confined in here. So like there's like swirls or something, or
No, so you take your cursor and move it to the right just a little bit. See that little node right there? Call that node number A. And then that animates into the downwards position.
okay.
And then downwards again. And then put another diagonal line coming out of there just to hide the bottom of the lava. It'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks.
Cool.
Key, do you have something you would like to show us today?
Yeah. Hold on.
All right, so remember last week we talked about breaking up the silhouette of that smoke back there. And you know, mine is really broken apart into cartoony shapes. And I think that yours is just a little too flat.
Yeah.
And it might be animating correctly, but it's kind of hard to see because there's a node. If you take your cursor and move it straight down about 2 inches. Nope, straight down. Over to the right. Right. Keep going. Right there. Nope, back a little bit. Right there, your smoke is appearing to either move backwards or not at all. So I think it's easy to follow the nodes if you make them more obvious. But you have to think about the silhouette of your smoke itself. I mean, it looks like smoke, but you could make it a lot more interesting, again, following the rules of art with very small shapes, medium big shapes, and then just huge shapes. A variety of shapes is going to help you. So what else do you have planned out here? You want to talk us through maybe, so is that all lava right there?
Yeah.
You painted it red. So
yeah,
are you
planning
going to have it, are you going to have it animating or just bubbles in it?
Bubbles, and I was thinking about like some kind of flow coming this
Well,
way.
you're going to get the flow to read better if it's on the outside edge. Like, for instance, oops, let me pick a better color, green. So like right here, like if you animated like these nodes right here, and you're only going to need 10 drawings or so. So you animate, so these are all nodes A. And the flow is moving this way. Right? Do you understand? So I don't think you have to, you don't have to animate anything over here. You probably don't have to animate anything over here. Leave this alone, but paint it a different color. And maybe you can do like a giant bubble here. Right? We talked about bubbles last week, right?
Yeah.
And you can do like an exploding bubble right there. What are you going to do in this area? Fire?
Yeah.
All right.
It's good space for fire.
And what about like a little airplane?
Okay.
Crashing into the volcano.
And do explosion.
But what are you going to do right here? Lightning?
Yeah, I was thinking about having lightning coming off of the smoke, maybe.
Sure, that's what it does. You could have lightning over here. You could have lightning over here. And just go back and look at my tutorials. And then what about right here? I'm going to put a giant image of me right there.
What else do we need for this project?
It's this is the part that's up to you. Look, I've just become part of your project.
It's the Billy constellation.
I'm grading you, right? Let me make myself angry. There you go. Now you're in trouble. Yeah, keep going, but fix these clouds. I think you can start out small and really small, but then you're going to have to introduce some bigger and more obvious shapes. And I know that this means you might have to redo all of it, but hopefully redoing it isn't going to take you too long. But you really do need to introduce some more variety of shapes in here. Even the little correction that I'm doing right now is better than what you have.
Damn.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Linksy?
Sorry, I just get the wrong idea. I do the bomb.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to see that or?
Sure. Yeah, just show it. By the way, drawing that little airplane like that would mean that it wouldn't cycle technically, or that if it did cycle, then that means you would have like multiple airplanes crashing into the volcano. And you
That'd be
don't
kind of awesome.
you don't need to do that.
We keep sending out flights, but they never come back. What's going on?
That's right.
Can you see that?
Yes. Okay. It's good. Like I said, I'm gonna give you a couple other pointers on it today, and you can add to it. But remember, your volcano is due in a week.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Linksy.
Let me stop.
Tom, do you have stuff to show us today? I know I saw you on the chat, and that you have to leave early, I understand. I'm just gonna wait 10 seconds for a reply from Tom. Okay, we will pass on Tom. Millie!
I didn't do volcano. I did like potion. I will show you.
Okay.
Can you guys see?
I can see it, yes. All right, so a couple of recommendations for you. So I think the first thing that you might want to do is give this cat a little bit more realistic proportions. So, and then just let his tail, and it might be fun to animate his tail going back and forth. So your animation, so you should be able to pull this one off. So just get a little cycling going on with his tail wagging here. You know, he is sleeping in the window, so you don't have to put anything else in here. But I do want you to think about a couple of things. One is that if this is the horizon, then this could actually be more like the baseboard of the room. And with this being the horizon, what that means is that your perspective is set up for that 1 point perspective here. And then if you've got stuff in the window, you know, you're not going to be able to see the top of this shelf that the cat is sitting on, because technically the shelf is you would see the bottom of the shelf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in order to do this correctly, you're going to want to move your horizon so that it's more up here. And what that does is it makes this shelf just really flat. So watch your perspective. All right, so you know, this volcano project is supposed to have a whole bunch of different effects in it. So you've got this smoke happening, but so what are you going to do with this water?
The water drop and the bubbles, and maybe a fire underneath.
Like, well, you don't have a lot of room. You're going to have to recompose this. Well, there's a couple of things to think about. If we look at your whole stage, you've got a focal point here and a focal point here, another focal point here and another focal point here, and another one in the middle. And so in order to do this, you would have to create some sort of narrative. So you'd have like part 1, part 2, part 3, maybe even a part 4. Part 1 would be like the water dripping, right? And then the fire. But because this kind of looks like a cat's bowl. You know what I mean? So I think that you might want to make this more like a pot that's just on the counter.
Yeah.
Right? Or that this right here is a stove. And that, see, the thing about trying to do a fire in this amount of space is you're not going to be able to get a really good look at the shapes. Because a lot of times the fire on a stove, it's just really simple. There's just a couple of little shapes in there. So I'm not sure about this fire thing, but the water drip, you could get the water dripping out okay. But is that the thing that starts the smoke?
Yeah, I was thinking first, it's actually not water, it's some kind of liquid, and there's some chemical reaction going on, and maybe there's smoke and bubbles going on after the water.
Well, right. You could even have special effects. You could have like a little, like a fuse, right? You could have like the stuff comes, and so don't make it look like this. Make it look like one of those Bunsen burners, right? Make it look more like a chemistry lab, and so once that first drop, just the first drop hits it, there is like a little splash, but then there's also like this explosion of special effects that comes straight up. You know, that might be kind of nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you got this area over here to think about as well. So, but try this. It's just like a giant fuse, you know, and then there could be a flash, like an explosion, like we talked about last week. We'll talk about it again today. And so you could just have a giant flash emanating from this point, and then that starts the smoke. You know what I mean? All right, that would be my suggestions right there.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Christy?
Yes, I'm going to screen share real quick. Sure. Okay. Oh wait, that's not going away, but yeah, it's supposed to go away.
The smoke is?
No, the blue thing that stayed.
Oh, you just have to touch the stage somewhere.
I think I put it on the wrong layer, so I'm just gonna turn that off real quick. Wait,
All right.
no, it's not.
All right. So the narrative here is that is some sort of spiritual thing here, right?
Like a magic circle thing.
So so this little blue thing, are you going to have fire there at all, or is it just a smoke?
It's supposed to be like I'm going to make it like condensed, and then it's gonna explode.
All right. So what I'm seeing then is, and I think we talked about this last week, but let's really condense this symbol here.
Oh, okay.
Because if this is your horizon, your vanishing point is here, then you could easily afford just to get that thing squished in there, because you want to get the thing away from the edge.
Oh. Okay.
All right. And so I think these bubbles here should be fine. Just go back and look at our discussion on how to do bubbles. You know, and really these bubbles are going to be easy. The sequence for a bubble popping is that the bubble is going to come up, and it literally just pops. You know, you could just draw a 5-point or a 6-point star emanating from the very middle, and then just on top, just like 2 or 3 of these on 2s, and then you're just going to have like a couple of little drops of water that coalesce in the middle that fall back down. It's really simple. I mean, you could do that. You could do one type of bubble here, and then use a giant bubble here that's like our mud bubble that we talked about last week.
Mhm.
One that pops a little more slowly. So we've been talking about smoke for a couple of weeks now. Are you going to try to put like a steam behind here,
On the pot.
you know, coming out?
Yeah, on the
Just, and you can make it very transparent as a, because that'll work. I'm not convinced about this candle. Candles, the fires for candles are actually very easy.
Mm.
And in fact, they can be so easy that they're not even moving. The only thing that really gets the effect moving is if this is interrupted by a wind or something.
Yeah,
But
I was
for the
wondering
most
if
part, all you would need to
try
do
this.
is trace this shape back just a little bit and have it wiggle. So it might be more interesting to put like, I don't know, some sort of device here that's on or around this right side focal point so that you can play with the idea of fire. And we'll talk about this today. Just a little bit more animated. Right, so yeah, because these kind of fires are easy. What I always like to do is use a torch. You know, and then it depends on your composition. Like in my volcano, the one that I have in my volcano is a campfire. Right, so there's all kinds of different fires, but this is just a little too easy. All right, got your notes? Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Key, do you want to share your screen with us?
Again?
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Farah.
Hello, yes I do. Give me a second. Here you go. Yes, I refined the smoke and then started some other things.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to work out okay. I think that you have a couple options. You can go ahead and let it play.
Okay.
And one option would be is that if you introduced like some negative shapes here, like for instance, this is just the sky behind the smoke. And so it starts out as like a small little shape, and then it comes out to here and it's a little bit bigger of a shape. So you animate a 3-point hole into a 4-point hole. And then by the time it gets out to here, you can actually break it apart into several little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Then by the time it gets out to here, the holes can become even quite a bit bigger. It's just an option. Another option would be is to just put a shadow on top of this. So you've got like another layer of shadows that are moving right on top. And oh, I don't like that one. So you do it like this. And so that's the bottom. And then you've already got your nodes set up. You're just animating. These are all the same nodes, right? These are all the A nodes. So in 11 drawings, you animate from here to here, from here to, all the way through it. And then, just to be fun with it, just to be actually correct with it, draw the whole bubble, the whole node like that. And so that's the top of it. And then what you do is you can use this for a highlight. And then you just do like these little half moons like that. And they don't all have to be the regular same kind of shape either. This can be like a little bigger. Could actually even connect with this one. It's just a highlight. That's the thing that the sun is kind of capturing on. And then just paint this one as a shadow underneath it. There's a couple of options for you. Redraw this. This is going to be in the foreground element. And so foregrounds have to be a little bit more picky. So go and study your caldera just a little more. Give it a better artistic kind of feel to it. Get this ridge to be kind of closer to us. And allow some crevices that are in the foreground, maybe even some like little plants or something. And then instead of just having this thing right, like a pot that's completely full, give yourself a ridge on the away side so that it's holding it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, and then what else are you gonna do? You're gonna put fire right here?
No, I think that's it. Just the smoke, lightning, and then the bubbles.
You sure you don't want fire right here?
I was.
All right, we'll go over fire today. You can think about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
All right, Chrissy?
Yeah, I'll share. Hold up. Only got the arcs for the smoke.
Right. Be careful. Right in here, it's going backwards. And it's going backwards right here too. And here. So be careful of that. The easiest thing you can do is just start with this little smaller part of a smoke and know that it's going out to here, and then pick another one that's, you know, it expands or it gets a little bigger or something. But the whole idea of this would be is that these are all the same piece of smoke. This smoke right here animates into this position. And then this one's going to animate into this position.
Okay.
And so whatever it is, and you know, if it's 11 drawings on fours, that's fine. Then this is drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And this is drawing 1 again.
Okay.
And then you just very simply animate that little hot dog shape. And then you come out here and you animate another one out here. And I'm intentionally expanding it because smoke can do that. And then you do the same thing. Drawing number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then you're probably going to need another one right here. But right now, you've got an error here, an error here, and an error here where the smoke looks like it's going backwards.
Okay.
And
how many frames should I stick to the cycle for the?
What I have is that if this is 11 drawings, I believe in mine, those 11 drawings were on 8s. You were moving really slowly. And so that was 88 frames. So I only did 11 separate drawings, but the whole loop was 88 frames. And your numbers can be different too. If you wanted 10 on 8s, then you're gonna have an 80 frame loop.
Okay.
If you had if you had 10 on 4s and it was working, then it would only be 40 frame loop. So it depends on you.
Okay.
But you do have some errors here. And so you're going to do a bubble here. Is that
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking of trying out lightning, but I feel like it's
well, the
gonna be
lightning could be over here.
okay.
And it can be down here too. You know, your lightning can just kind of arc like that. And it could be over here. It makes more sense. I mean, you could even put another one that kind of just hits over here. You could do a fire right here if you want, but remember that you've got a big focal point here and another focal point here that you're not addressing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all about focal points. You're going to keep hearing that over and over and over again. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Javon, I saw that you showed up. Can you share your iPad with us?
Yeah, I could try again.
And remember, you have to get caught up.
I submitted my pixie dust and my flag animation already.
All right, I will check it. Where did you put it? Do you remember where you put it?
I put it in the late
okay
folder. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen. It says you're sharing device audio.
Okay, cool.
Nothing there yet.
All right. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's sideways though.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah, I just got the smoke working for right now.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with the lightning.
Well, I think that you could, and I'm not sure if I'm. No, I don't have my annotation here. This is strange. Very strange. Oh, maybe it's down here. Huh. Strange.
Well, because you're running an iPad, it's not the same on the desktop.
Yeah, it's probably something on your part. But
yeah.
I can't draw on this. So
Oh.
I'll just walk you through it. I think that the first thing that you want to be really careful of is that you are using a 16:9 aspect ratio.
Okay.
Because I don't see that this is, yeah, that's not the right ratio. That's more like an academy ratio.
Okay.
So you have to make sure that you're 16:9.
All right.
And then pay attention to your focal points.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you start drawing your focal points out, you'll see automatically that there's nothing going on in the lower left focal point, and the right upper and the right lower focal point have nothing there. And so you need to concern yourself with those, especially in the world of animation.
Gotcha.
So, and you're going to need lightning. You're going to need all kinds of other stuff in here. So,
right.
Remember, this is due next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. I've lost track of my notes about where I am right here. Christian, you said you threw all your files away. So, do you have anything to show us today?
Yes, I'm redoing the whole thing right now.
But do you have anything to show at this very moment?
Does it show?
It is showing.
Yeah, so this is what I have right now.
All right, a couple of things, please. Again, remember, remember your focal points. Hey, you stopped sharing.
1 second. There we go. Is it showing again?
Yeah, so I wish the Toon Boom people either had a preset button for focal points or a button, a tool that you could manipulate your own. And for whatever it's worth, I did read an article about some guy who was saying that in the world of cinema, understanding cinematic thirds and using cinematic thirds can be detrimental to your career as a cinematographer and composition. But I don't think so. I think that if you just remember that Wes Anderson loves the center focal point, and that anywhere inside this basic frame is good. And you can pick your own strong focal points, but you do want to go ahead and hit this button right here.
From what I've heard a similar article. It's that
This one or the audience game?
No, this one.
This one?
No.
Oh, there you go.
So you can see that what this is action safe area. See, it says safe area right there. It's just action safe. But there's another area inside this, one more field inside this, that is title safe. You always want to keep all the good stuff away from the edge of your screen. And so just by the way you have this set up, I'm very worried about this sun over here or this moon over here. Even though this is a sketch, go ahead and more clearly define how you think you would like. Stop it. How clearly, more clearly you would like to define the smoke out here. Because I think this one's interfering with it. But don't worry about the smoke coming out of this caldera. Just leave this one the way it is. And then if you want to do lava, then just draw a little differently. But then remember, you've got a huge focal point right here. So what are you going to do with this? And you can do lava tumbling out of here and going this way and going like a little root or something. But you're going to have a big focal point here. You could put lightning out here. I would, if you want, I don't think you need this little sun or moon. So work smart, work hard, not hard. I think that just once again, if you're thinking about nodes, this one could be really simple. You just got 4 nodes right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Work fast and smart.
Got it.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
All right, Daniel.
Yes. Okay. Share screen to. There we go. Okay. Here. Yeah, I haven't added the revisions you told me for the smoke yet, but I added thunder, mud, bubbles, and that's water splash.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and let it loop. All right, so if this is the horizon and you have like some illusion to your initial perspective like this, go ahead and interrupt the ground plane that is the horizon in just a few places so that we understand that this volcano here has a 3-dimensional quality to it. This one is fine, but I think that this one, you can bring it just a little closer to us, and you could even stack them up. You could even do like another one that was right here, like that. And then as they go further away, introduce yourself to atmospheric perspective.
Right. So make it look further away.
Because once you set this up, you're going to see that this pond right here should be, perspective on it should look more like this. This one's almost close, but your bubble is not. So your bubble is really flat. And don't let this be flat right there. Let that water splash be a nice cone like this. right?
I see.
Because you've made it flat, you've killed your perspective just on this ridge right there.
Okay.
I'm just going to clear this just for 1 second. And so you're going to have fire here, something burning.
Yeah.
So
Down there on the bottom right.
you've got more space to put it over here, though.
Over
You could
where?
have like
Oh, I see.
you could have like a downed tree that was burning.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And if you wanted to, and we'll talk about the fire more completely today, but you could do it in a little part where you can have just like, you know, some little burning bush right here or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is quite a bit bigger. And then because the wind is blowing that way, you know, then you've got the smoke from it going off to the left. Yeah, but the smoke
Gotcha.
is working okay.
The smoke is very satisfying. I won't lie.
Yeah, it's working pretty good.
Thank
But
you.
because it's a big space, remember that you probably want to go in there and put a shadow layer,
Mm-hmm.
a highlight layer, just right on top of it. And you don't have to use these as 1, 2, 3, or you know, you can think of it as new nodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely think of it just to get them animated. But when you go to actually do the shadows, you only need this like little baby moon part of it, and they could be all interconnected. You know, they don't have to break apart or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be fun just to do the shadows right there.
Okay.
And then on top of that, then you have space for a highlight. Then you can just put the highlight on the other side, and then you know you're having fun with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Will do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Uma, did you want to share anything with us today?
Yeah, just a second.
All right, so a couple of things are just catching my eye. So make sure that you're thinking about just even though because you've got color on here already, so always just kind of be thinking about what this volcano is actually doing, and don't make it so regular. Make these shapes a little more scraggly. You know, it's Mother Nature doing her worst, right? And so get in there and bring this lip down just a little bit. And that gives you a place to put like actual ridges in there. And it starts to look a little better. Again, with the faraway ridge, give yourself a place where there's a ridge, and this would be the area that the smoke is emanating from. I think the exterior smoke is working okay, but you've got tons of little shapes right here. And I don't recommend doing tons and tons of little shapes like that. I think for the most part it's working, although there seems to be a jump in the loop right here. And so it's not looping quite correctly. And remember that the way to do that really clearly, and you could probably fix this, is just you start out with a small circle. It goes to this one, you know, it goes to this one, it moves over here, and then again, it's just the same theory, right? But sometime between the 11 drawings that it takes to get from this first open shape to this first open shape, this shape has to start again. So if this is drawing number 1, then this is drawing number 1 as well. All of these are drawing number 1. But by the time you get, and it depends on your numbering. You've got this on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like you've got it on 8. So by the time you get out to here to drawing number 8, this little shape here should already be like this. Same thing on the other side. If you start out small, you go to a node here, and you can count them across so that you're not confused. So you always have 4 big nodes on either side, that by the time you get to this one here on drawing number 8, and even on drawing number 7, this first little node has to be coming up. It has to be beginning already. And that'll help your loop, because there's something not working with your loop. So then on this center, the center is looking kind of strange. For lack of better words, it looks like entrails instead of smoke. So think about what's happening. So redo this center one, which is, I don't know, smoke color or something. So start out with like a different size shape here, and then you're still on 4s. So what might be interesting is if it gets a little bigger and then breaks apart, and then gets a little bigger and breaks apart again and overlaps each other, and then it goes off screen. So this little composite here of the shadow layer is gonna be a better aesthetic for you than that little inner shape that you've got. All right, so you've got smoke. You're gonna do like a little, like mud bubbles out here, maybe. And I think that you should probably try some lightning. At least one. I think that your background is fine if you got this lean like this. So counteract that lean by bringing something in this way. I think it'll be more interesting to you. And then remember, you do have an open area right here where there's not a lot of happening. And really, truly in your foreground here, you could probably have a little bush on fire or something. All right, so those are my notes. So go ahead and stop sharing. All right, let's take a short break. One thing that I wanted to mention to you before we do these little demos is that, yes, I put the deadline for your volcano on Monday, the 26th, and we will look at those next Monday, the 26th. But because this is an important project, I've also extended the actual deadline for the volcano until Friday the 30th. So if you can make any kind of revisions there, you won't get hit on points, you won't get hit for being late, that kind of deal. And I think that goes for our tornado project. When you see that our tornado project is going to be due on November 16th, go ahead and give yourself a couple of 3 full 4 days until Friday the 20th to make any kind of revisions in there without losing points. I think that's just only fair, seeing as how we have this COVID thing that just won't go away. And then the same thing goes for the very final. Yes, we are going to meet. Our final day will be 14 December, 1:30 in the afternoon. But if there's any kind of repairs, you can count on me not doing final grades until December 18th. So for all 3 of these projects, there's like a little grace window in there. I thought I would just mention that to all of you.
That's pretty cool of you.
Well, it's all I can do, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you. Oops, nope, stop it. I did this last time too. I hit the wrong button. There we go, okay. All right, so what I have here, let me make sure that this was working. Okay, good. Just a refresher on where we were with the actual bomb itself. And remember, even just in this context here, I'm trying to pay attention to that focal point on the lower left focal point. Remember, I made a comment last week that this actually becomes a fairly big deal when you're talking about TNT as an animator or even as a game student. I think that you should know that TNT means trinitrotoluene, and that for the longest time, we called 2D animation cell animation. Some people still call it cell animation because this comes from nitrocellulose. Sorry. Cellulose. And that's because in the world of 2D animation, those little clear cells were called cells because of nitrocellulose. And this was a byproduct of the cotton industry, where they would take the stems and the leaves and the seeds and everything, and it would just be this oily, gooey stuff that was just like left over from the process of cotton. And there was so much of it that people didn't quite know what to do with it, but they realized that it was very flammable. Did I say flammable? It was explosive. And so this oily, gooey stuff here, it comes from the cellulose of cotton, and they realized that if they added nitroglycerin to it, that it both made it completely more unstable and completely explosive. But over the course of a couple of days or so, it became more of a plastic sheet that you could use. And in the days, that was very, very expensive. So one thing that you can take away from this is that if you ever see a cell, quote unquote, an original cell from Pinocchio or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you'd be very skeptical, because nitrocellulose, those cells became light brown over time. And they were so expensive that they all got reused. So there's a whole bunch of them that are in storage in Kansas City from the Disney company. But when we see the TNT for cartoons, animators always take an affinity for trinitrotoluene, and that cell animation started from nitrocellulose material. There's also one other strange little anecdote here, and those are nitro films. And the history here is that the film got made. It was shot on negative, a positive print was made, multiple prints were made, it got displayed in theaters, and then it got archived. In the olden days, like in the 20s, sometimes a film would be shown all year long. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was in the theaters like for a year. Gone with the Wind was in the movie theaters for a year. The Wizard of Oz is still in movie theaters probably. And they had to keep making more prints of that film because they would just wear out. And when those films wore out, they didn't throw them away. They just kind of stored them and archived them. Well, when you store and archive this film, this nitrocellulose leaches out of the film and it pools in the bottom of the little canister. And so if you're not careful, when you go into one of these old movie houses, there's actually a couple of them here in San Francisco, and you actually go to move this, you have to be really careful because this could explode. And it will explode. If there's a little pool of nitroglycerin down here in the tin, then you have to be really careful if it could explode. All right, so just refresh from what we did last week. The fuse is going, and then there's a little bit of smoke, and then the explosion. So what I'm gonna do right now is we're gonna look at a couple of different variations. And the first variation is, let me just check and see where I am here. So what I want to do is I want to, hold on a second. I want to look at this duration of time. So right here I have, because right now the fuse has gone out. And so I want to count these frames right here. So that's frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. So that's a third of a second. What I think that I would like to do is this smoke right here, I would like it to be longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross select these two. Actually, I can just hit F5 here a bunch of times. So F5 just adds frames. Oops, I lied. Thought I was in Flash. Hit the plus sign on the keyboard. Now remember that I have to line this up correctly here because these guys were in line with it as well. So I have to extend these frames out. What I want to do is I'm going to add at least 2 more frames to each one of these. I want to slow that little puff of smoke down a little bit. So let's take a look at that. All right, so that looks much better. What I would like to do is I want to add more frames here. And I have to realign these because I have to make sure that the white and black are in the right place. All right, so what this one is, this is my effects one, that's fine. This is the, let me turn it off just to be sure. So this is the new blast. So this blast has to take over right, at least right there. And what I want to do is I want to double check because I have an intuition that I forgot to extend the time on this and that the blast goes away. One more time. So the explosion happens. Yeah, and we don't see this. So I need to come back out to here and hit F5, which just extends that exposure. And remember we talked about adding empty frames here. And you could just do that by shift selecting and then right clicking and hit delete if you want to remove frames. All right, so let's be moving this new timing around. Let me make sure that I've got everything in the right place. So this is my white frame. This is the continuing of the explosion. And this is a white card. This is a black card. This is a white card, black card, white card. And so that should coincide. We want to see these things happening. So this should be moved over to the right just a little bit, like right there. And let's test our animation. I'm going to limit this to just the very end of the shot and play. Okay, so that's working much better here. And you can see right here, I've got this little puff of smoke here on 6s or 7s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frame, which is fine. It could be even slowed down just a little bit better, but that's okay. Remember that this fuse here is very much looking like pixie dust. It's very much behaving just like pixie dust, so that when we are drawing it, it's on 2s. I've picked one color, I could pick another color. I can go in here and just add it. And now that I've got this selected and everything is on 2s already, I could just hit G to go to the next keyframe. I turn my onion skin on so that I know that this little incidents of sparks are not going to be on top of anywhere else. They can be really out there too. They can just really kind of shoot out from the fuse itself. And I'm doing it in red, but red is also the color of the previous frame in my onion skin, so I just have to pay attention to where I'm going here. All right, so once again, I'm just reiterating the idea that you can do everything all at once, but it's easier to do it in passes. It's easier to just do like this little hot section right here in red, and then go back and do a yellow, then go back and do a white. You might even be able to get away with doing like a black pass, where the special effects, the pixie dust coming off of here, the actual physical explosion of this gunpowder, which is what the fuse really is, could be black too. Might be really fun. I got a dark background. It might make sense to make it in white, which is fine. There's a whole bunch of studies that have been done on whatever the nature of the thing that's burning is. You can always tell that if the thing that's burning is copper, then it's going to be green. If it's magnesium, it's going to be blue. There's all kinds of imperial metals in there. All right, let's take a look at, so we just added a little bit of red, so that works. All right, so let's talk about an alternate version of the explosion here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna leave these white, black, white, white, black, white where they are, but I wanna talk about this guy here. There's another way to do this little section right here. So what we have is this effects 1 layer. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this off, and I'm gonna make a new drawing layer, and we're gonna call this FX2. All right, and then we're gonna just draw right on top of this. Actually, I'm wondering why I have anything there at all. I'm wondering if it's, there's something, it looks like I did it on this background layer here. Let me just see what I've got. Oh, I see what I did. So this stuff right here is just the shards that are going out. All right, and I believe the B line is on the background. That's the bomb. So what I really want to do is I really want to give these their own layer. And there's a nice little shortcut for doing that. You just take your drawing, and we're gonna put this one is FX0, add and close, and that's going to be right here. So you can take this whole group here and shift select it, and then very carefully just move it up, and that gives it its own layer. So right now that bomb needs to go away because it just exploded. So we're just going to shift select to the end, right click and hit delete. So, and now I can turn this off. Now this one, I can just turn it off. We're going to talk about a different blast. And we can turn this one off too. This FX1 we can turn off. And the little shard thing, which is, all right. So let's just check and make sure everything else is working correctly. One more time. Fuse, smoke, and the flashes is all we've got. So now we're going to talk about an alternative explosion. And that one is going to be on this FX2 layer here. So what I want to do is I want to turn my onion skin on, and I'm going to open it up. Come on, Toon Boom. Because I want to be able to see that bomb. And if I can't see it, then I'm just going to draw a placeholder for it. And okay, so it's not going to behave. It doesn't like seeing this bomb on another layer. So what I'm going to do, in just an obnoxious color right here with my pencil, is I'm just going to go outside, and I'm going to say this is where the bomb is sitting in the X coordinate. Here's where it's sitting in the Y coordinate. And it's just about that big. Okay, so now I can go back over to here, and we can draw an alternative explosion. All right, and I should let everyone know that I'm getting this one straight out of the John Hallis Harold Whitaker book, which is one of my favorite animation textbooks. So let's just do this one and just add a little bit of yellow to it, a little bit of blue. Oh, by the way, this is one of my favorite things where you're able to look at the RGB values, just these 3 numbers here, and be able to tell what color it is, like you were in the Matrix. Like, look at this. If it's 255 all the way down, it's white. If it's 0, 0, 0, it's black. If it's 100, 100, 100, you know that 3 numbers on top of each other make gray. So there is this possibility of looking at the RGB values and getting a really good idea of what color you're using. Okay, pencil, and I'm going to be, oh, and I must have drawn that thing in a strange place. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy these. I'm going to copy them, and on this background, I'm going to paste them. They're right on top of each other, so they should be there the whole time now. All right, and then it's another thing here that I think what I have to do is, I want the horizon does not go away here. So I'm going to, and remember that in Toon Boom, you can go to your main select tool where you can hit the command key to momentarily select something. And I believe on Windows, it's the window key. So I've just momentarily selected it. And now I'm going to go here and just paste it. So now F5 to the end. It should just extend the background. So here the bomb is still there with the background, with that horizon. And then here it's just the horizon line. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my parameters. I know where my bomb is. I got my reference right here. And actually in this John Hallis, Harold Whitaker book, something to take note of, 5 or 6 years ago, they added a bunch of Flash stuff in there and some 3D animation stuff at the end. Obama was still president, so they did a bunch of stuff in there. But there's some really great things in here for drawing and special effects and all kinds of fun stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the A version here. And so in the A version, using my new color, FX0, I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to do an open shape. And this is not, it's not going to be entirely different, but it's just a little different. If you were paying attention last week, you'll pick up on the little difference here. So what this is, and I'm just going to copy it just kind of the way it is. You're going to give yourself a flash. You're just going to give yourself a shape that you can color in. Don't color it in yet, but you know it's almost ready. It's right there. So then the very next frame, I'm going to actually turn my onion skin on. Can be smaller. So and it can be in a different place too. So I'm just going to rotate this just a little bit. And one of the actual logic, if you will, I'm trying to think of a good word, one of the scientific reasons for this visually is that things happen in an explosion, things happen really fast, and you can get away with all kinds of stuff. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the shards of the bomb in this version here, as opposed to the way we did it last week. Remember, so the bomb was a sphere. So the sphere is just going to turn into little shards like this. And they're just clumped around this just basic general area right there. Frame number 3. Now right in the middle, now this gets bigger. And you can rough this in and go back and straighten up these lines later. These lines can be just perfectly straight lines. Sometimes it makes cartoon sense if they are perfectly straight. And I'm trying to draw straight as lines as possible. Okay. In this version here, those little metal shards now stay the same size, but they go out, and I really should be drawing them in a different color by my theory of Toon Boom and the expressed amount of flexibility you get with making things in different color and being able to go back and change things really quickly just by changing the color of it. All right, and then this frame is the one that's a little different. This frame is the one that is now just as big as you can possibly get it on the frame. It's the equivalent of a white frame flash. And I'm thinking and trying to draw at the same time, so I'm just, and I want a little bit of space behind it, just one tiny little bit right in there. All right, and then the very next frame here, we have the white, black, white. So on this one, the flash is going to start all over again, but we're going to use black. And we're going to use a completely different array. Try to get those shapes. It's a star. All right, well, by it, it's a star. And then the very next frame, and so this will be okay here, that I've got a white, black, and a white frame on top of it, but I really want to go in here and get rid of this just because I don't want to be confused at all. This one is, again, a little different of a drawing, a little different of a frame, just because there's so many variable ways to do this. All right, so this one is a little different. It's inconceivable that the explosion is only 8 frames old, but we're already going to introduce some kind of smoke here. And this is, again, what's different about this explosion. It does grow quickly. Explosions always happen quickly. They're always on ones. And more little bits of smoke. You have to trust me on this one. It's going to work. Because on the very next frame, now you draw this little clump of smoke got real big all of a sudden. So rules of art, outside curve, small, a bigger shape, a medium shape. The other part got real big, and then a smaller shape, and then a medium shape, and then a smaller shape. So go back and look at it. These little clumps right here became big. This shape right here moved outwards a little bit and got real big. This little shape here, same thing. This one. And then on underneath all this, I draw all these little plume puffs of smoke first. And then underneath it, the star got real big. So we're going to come out about right here. You have to figure out kind of where they overlap each other. So that one's fine right there. And it's going to look weird. Sorry, weird. But that's the whole thing of this, is that this star right here is black. So you go white, black, white. All right, and let me continue this. One frame here. So now this little clump of smoke right here continues out pretty big. Continues out. It starts to gather a little bit more shape. And then you've got an inside part of it too. So now you start to see interior hole in the smoke. And it's almost inconceivable because this is really happening so fast, but you will see it. So you draw that little piece of smoke first. This clump of puff of smoke is pretty much off screen. This one is becoming more defined. Same thing with this one. And this one here is now way off over here. And in this one, basically everything else on the screen is black. So now, and remember, we're going to go white frame here in just a minute, but everything else here is black. I'm drawing outside the frame. All right, and then there's a couple other things here that Hallis suggests, and that is that when you're adding frames out here, you can do an additional white star in the middle. But let's go back here and let's paint this. Remember that it's paint, just regular paint. So I'm just going to paint that one. And this is what I like to call chasing vectors, because sometimes it doesn't like to paint things just automatically. Oh, that one worked, okay. Ooh, it worked, yay. And then this one is this. That's the whole thing. And the interior space right there is black. So now let's just take a look at this one. So just with those 8 frames adjustments, we basically have a different kind of explosion. Now, I don't recommend using this one for a volcano, but it might work for the tornado. Let's take a look at this one. See it? It's completely different. It's really fun. Remember, we were recording this, so I'm going to put this away. And I want to bring back up my volcano demo. All right, so we're going to talk about this fire here for just a second. So let's come in on it. There's a couple of things that I want to mention just about the fire. And you can kind of see that I've made this, I've used this demo here before. Let me find where the fire is. All right, so this is looping. And again, I'm going to reference just one of the more easy to understand fires, which again comes out of this John Hallis and Harold Whitaker book. Comes just a page after the explosion that we just did. There was another variation here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit this to just the first, I think it's on 12 frames. So let's see if I think it's 12 frames. Let me make sure that it's not 14 frames. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for shapes. And this is another thing that I can give you, impart on you, is we've selected the very first fire, and I'm going to just hit the G key to go to the next keyframe. But what I'm looking for is this clam shape right here, this oval shape right here. So as soon as I see that shape again, I'm going to limit it to not show that next frame. So that part moves up a little bit more, moves up a little bit more, up a little bit more, changes. It becomes a big open shape, then it becomes a bigger open shape, and then this is the loop right there. So so that jumped already back to my first frame. Let's make sure that it wasn't on 16 frame loop. So let's just check it once again. All right, so I believe this is a 14 frame loop. So there are 7 drawings in this cycle. Actually, my notes say 8 because I forgot the very first drawing. All right, so let's just take a look at this while it's looping. And it's pretty much just that simple. Don't pay attention to the other ones because they're looping on different, they start and end on different places. All right, so that's pretty much easy to understand with your eyes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here to frame 88 and just leave the whole thing open again. I think it's 88. Yeah, it's frame 88. All right, and then just like we did last week, I'm going to do a little element with splashing for a fire for you outside the picture frame, just so that we can see it clearly and we can see and understand how it's done. And in order to do that, I'm just going to, so in other words, all these fire levels, this fire, fire 4, fire 3, fire 2, all of those are just copies of that main fire. So what I'm going to do is we're going to bring up a new layer. And this is going to be fire keys. We'll just call it keys. And it's going to be a vector. We're going to close it. And we're going to just animate it off the screen underneath down here. All right, so in order to do this, I need to give myself a registration point. And we're just going to pick this red right here. And we're going to make a new one of it. And this one, we're just going to do fire keys FK. And I'm going to put this away and make sure that we're using the right one. Okay, good. FK, fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to need a registration point here. I'm drawing on the very first frame, and I'm just going to take I have to move Toon Boom back into my stage here. Hold on. All right, so again, what I'm going to do is just on that frame right there is I'm going to draw a completely horizontal line, and I'm going to draw a center point just like this. I'm going to command these two, copy it, and then paste it on twos by hitting the greater than sign on the keyboard and hitting paste. Greater than sign, paste. So this just goes out 2 frames, as many frames as I need. And you can see in the timeline that I'm just kind of going down the timeline. I'm doing way too much. I'm almost 30 frames now, and I don't need that many. So right now I'm already at 30 frames. Fire, keys, demo. All right, so this is just the most practical way to do it. Let's take a look at our Pinterest board. By the way, when you're getting ready to do your tornado, take a look at those examples in there. There's some really good ones. All right, so in this fire here, there's a couple of different notions for you. Fire can be almost any kind of shape. Fire can be almost any kind of color. It depends on what's burning. Fire can burn the whole color spectrum. It can go red, green, blue, purple. It can be yellow. Methane burns clear. If you've ever seen one of those drag races where they don't put the nitromethane in the cars correctly, and it catches fire. It's like nitromethane burns completely clear and hot. So it can be whatever you would like. Obviously, if you've got an array between red and orange and yellow, it's going to read as fire. And one of the reasons why I brought up this little GIF right here was that somewhere hidden in this board, and I can never find it when I'm looking for it, is an example of a GIF where the fire is actually little mini triangles, and the triangles are just moving up and they move like fire. You can do that if you want. You don't have to draw this kind of fire like I'm going to demo it. Here you have a fire that has a hot white core and goes to turquoise and then purple. You can have total fun with the different kinds of color for your effect. And it really, there's a good reason why you can either do the fire here for the volcano and then do another one for your final. And so there's a whole bunch of them. You know, there's red ones here, and see if I can find the one that I was looking for. You know, this is way too complicated. This is just crazy out of control. Here's an example of one that is just triangles that are just moving. You know, and it's very tame. It's very safe. And what I would recommend is maybe something a little bit more complicated than that. All right. What I'm doing a couple of things all at once. I'm looking at these shapes and colors, and I'm looking for just a good example of something that's going to be good fire. It's not going to be something that's impossible to animate in just a couple of days. I only want to do maybe 10 or 12 drawings, maybe even 8 if I can get away with it. But this is way too out of control. This one here has way too many shapes. I'm looking for, this one's nice. It's got a big shape and medium and small shapes. I'm looking, and my eyes are recording those. Now here's a volcano, the little projectiles that we got going there. All right, so this one is kind of working here. I'm going to open this in a new tab. And so this one is very animation class oriented, where they're talking about the upward movement of the fire, and it moves from the left to the right, almost like our flag, except it doesn't really have to cycle in the same kind of manner. There's also internal eddies if you want. This is a good one. Again, this is just linked to my effects board. But one thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about some things here that are not necessarily quite so animatable or practical for your work here. And that is, just like we talked about earlier, in order to animate a candle flame, this can be done in just a couple of different frames. It's going to wiggle around. And you could even do like one of those really long burning candle flames. And these are just too easy. And, you know, I don't want that. But you have a torch. So think about some like medieval castle, and there's a certain thing in kerosene. These are the good ones. These are the ones where you're actually thinking about what's burning. And so when you start drawing out your fire, it has a purpose. It has like this shape to it. You can start to extract really nice internal and external shapes. And these are very doable. This kind of a torch is very doable. And that's very similar to the one here. Same thing goes with a campfire. And you know, you've got a couple of logs that are burning. And so when you're kind of planning out that fire, a little softer on the outside, you know, and then the fire gets a little more hot towards the middle. If you want, you can kind of give yourself a sketch of the fire as it's in its whole immolation. And then you can go, okay, now I need to command myself to those shapes a little more clearly. And you're just going to do one little keyframe like this. And you're looking for those sharp points. You're looking for these circular round points because that's what reads as fire. So you saw what I did there. You saw I just drew out those little circles and you're just drawing one keyframe. Here's an open part inside there. Go backwards to your board. See if you can pick up on some other shapes in there. And then evaluate your keyframe. Maybe you want a little shape over here and a little shape over here. I don't like that one. It's going to go on the outside. There we go. All right, so this is starting to work as my first key for the actual fire itself. So on this little node right here, what I'm going to do is just the same kind of thing we did with our smoke, with the flag, is that I want to animate this node into this position. And it just so happens that, was it this one? Nope, oh, I went backwards. That's very strange. There was one in particular that showed you the timing. And the timing is basically like this. Fire is hot. And when you've got hot, it moves fast. So when you're drawing out these little nodes, this node is going to move into this fast. Then it's going to slow down a little bit. So that's kind of why I looked at this. Then it's going to slow down a little bit more. And then it could slow down even more than that. So it tends to slow down as it gets closer to the top. So this is a notion about fire that is prevalent in many or all of these. If you just animate these little nodes moving at the exact same rate, it's going to move. It will look like fire. But in order to make it more awesome, it's fast and hot at the bottom and a little cooler as it gets towards the top of the fire. Just a little cooler. A little cooler. All right, so what we can do here is we can actually borrow this. We can, in Toon Boom, it's really easy to just cut through and copy. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it and I'm going to move it. Over here. And that should be fine for our first frame. Remember where you are. You're on your fire keys. We're going to go to number 2. We're going to do that just by hitting the G key. And we're going to limit. That's funny that the onion skin is showing up, but I don't have it turned on. I think it might be because it's still selected. Yep, it is. So I'm going to turn my onion skin on. And you know, once again, it's red, so I can't tell what I'm drawing in red and what used to be red. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to actually paint this more orange. And I didn't think about this earlier, but I'm going to show you how to paint things in orange. So with this effects color, I'm going to double check it, double click on the edge. Now I'm just going to switch it to orange so that I can see. Right there is better. And I can always change it back to red later. All right, so there we go. All right, so remember, fast and moves into slow. So on this second drawing here, now we're going to make sure we're on the second drawing. All right, let's just animate this upward. Actually, what I want to do is I want to cut into this shape right here a little bit more because it was just a little too big right there. All right, now we're going to go to the second drawing, which is on 3. And remember that it's showing up as red because it was before it. So what you can do here is you can plan out this whole shape moving upwards. So just animate it upwards and moving fast. This upwards fast. You've already got this notion of how to animate nodes. So get this shape right here and put it right here and animate it quickly up. Get this shape, and now it's going to start moving a little slower in here. This shape is going to come up. It's going to change maybe and break apart. This shape is going to continue the same kind of shape. And then this one is just going to go upwards by a little bit and break apart. This whole thing here is going to move upwards and break into two parts. And then this was connected. This negative space here moves up quickly, kind of stays the same shape. All right. Next keyframe. Now you can kind of see where you were going, and it makes more sense. So now this is moving up and just going to completely dissipate and fall apart. This part is moving slowly and dissipating. This little piece, same thing, just follow it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually do the same order of things. This one I'm not. All right, next keyframe, this is drawing 4. All right, so remember that before we were talking about really just kind of animating shapes and nodes, and I am still doing that, but the other thing that I'm doing is I'm doing it more straight ahead. You can hear in my voice maybe that I'm not quite so worried about where the cycle starts yet, because I can see it under there. I know where I'm coming from. I just have to get it to loop correctly. All right, so now we're on our 5th drawing. No, we're on our 6th drawing. Again, things move a little bit more slowly, and they break apart. They get smaller. Fire gets smaller. All right, and I am being a little messy right in this area. But let's see what we've got. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just see what we've got with just a really quick little cycle. All right, so even with just that little bit right there, you can kind of see that it's starting to work. Just with those 6, 7 drawings right there. Let's give it that last drawing on 2s. So now this is just 7 drawings, just cycling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out. We're going to do one more drawing, and we're going to keep on an even 8 number drawing. So this drawing here is the one we're going to need to get it to loop. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my onion skin for the entire duration of the 16 frames. And it would be great if I could see it, but I can't see it, so I'm going to change my mind. And we're going to do the connection bit just a little differently. Let me show you. So we're going to take this back down to frame 16, just like this. So this fire key, it doesn't have that. That's just what the last drawing here looked like, because there's no drawing here yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to frame 1, and I'm going to pull this again. So I'm going to hit my command button. I'm just going to pull this drawing. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to paste it. Now it's in a weird different place. And I'm just gonna tuck it over here because I wanna see what shapes those were. And I've got to animate, actually, I'm gonna paste that in a different place. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna copy it and I'm going to paste it in this position too. So now I can see it a little better. You could put it right on top of it, but it might make it just a little messy. So with my effects color, I know that I want to get this little shape right here has to start coming up. So I don't have to worry about it. I think it's too close, but this shape does. So this shape right here, this backward shape is right, it has to start right there and I have to connect it. And then this shape is going up. And there's a big negative space right there. And right about there, this shape is going to be here, like that. And then this shape right here is going to be right on top of this guy here. And we'll have to continue this. So on this frame, these guys are still burning away up here. So put those in there. This is still going away on this frame, but I got to get this little moon shape here now. So this little moon shape is going to have to start about right here on this drawing. Now, I know that some of you might have an intuition about if I introduce a new shape like this, I might have to go backwards a frame and put it in there. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So this little sharp point here is going to be about right here. And then this little softer rounded edge is going to be about right there. And then I need this sharp point going up and then connecting on the bottom. This negative space is going to come up out of nowhere. And this one is just going to be a little bit. There's nothing here, so I think I'll be okay. Let's just see what this thing tests like. All right, so it's getting there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to turn my onion skin off. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to more clearly define these shapes. There's negative shapes, the exterior shapes, and I'm still rough, but I'm just kind of tying it down a little bit. And what I'm going to end up doing is, because now I've got everything on 2s, is now I can start to just use my G key, go to the next keyframe. You know, something is missing right here, go backwards, right? Instead of just turning your onion skin on, just flip it. You're flipping, you're going from here to there. So this, I just went too far. So this one, there's something missing here. This part right here has to rise. And it is here, but there's too much of a negative space right there. So let's go one more out. I don't think that we missed a frame. It's possible we missed a frame. All right, so I'm gonna just bring this over like this because it looks like fire. All right, and then this one I'm concerned because it looks like I didn't in between this correctly. All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're going to do a technical in between on this third drawing here. So once again, on this drawing here, there's nothing there. So, and I can see that as soon as I start to draw, you'll be able to see where. So I'm just going to in between these lines, and hopefully this will work. So just get these shapes, and I'm in betweening those shapes. Just in betweening the shapes. This little moon shape is going from the red to the green. This is going from the red to the green, 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 just this is the interior shape, red to the green. Now, the thing that might happen here is this might slow it down just a fraction of an inch. Red to the green. All right, so now let's just go backwards to frame 1. I'm gonna turn my onion skin off. And we're still looking at these shapes. Now we're more clearly defining these. Goes up. So there's a big hole right there. So I'm gonna go back to frame 1, and then there has to be something here. So just a shape like that is fine, but now you gotta animate it. So I'm just hit the G key, go to the G key one more time, G key one more time, G key, it's right here, and now it's gone. So now we'll just go back to frame 1 and keep checking it. Now drawing number 3, 5, 7, this is looking a little soft right here. 9, 8, 7, 9, 7, 9, and I can see that there's a negative space here. So let me go backwards. Now we're on frame 1, 3, 5. On frame 5, we're going to introduce a new interior shape right here. Now we're on frame 7, and that's going to come up. And now it's going to get even bigger. And break apart. Go backwards a frame. Fix this. You're always thinking what the shapes should be looking like fire. So now this is already caught up to itself. That's good right there. But I'm missing this. And I'm missing, that was backwards, so forwards. And I'm missing some shapes in your backwards, forwards. Forwards. I'm looking at the timeline now. I'm on my very last drawing that I did before we copy and pasted this to get the other. So I'm not sure if I like this round shape right here. I'm just gonna kill it with a little shape like that. I'm gonna put like another little interior shape right here and go to the last keyframe, which is right there. And let's see what it looks like now at speed. All right, so this is, I thought we already did this in between. I might have just got a little confused. So I do want 8 drawings in here. So I'm gonna turn my onion skin back on again. And I'm gonna go animate these guys just up. And before I do that, I wanna go to the next keyframe and just look and make sure it was actually moving. So what I'm doing now is I'm on the very last drawing, but I'm going back to the first drawing because that's going to be the next drawing, and then I'm going backwards. So first drawing, so make sure it's moving upwards. First drawing, backwards. 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 All right, so this is just one way to do 8 drawings of fire. And it's starting to work. I think that all I have to do is get in there and kind of touch up some of these exterior shapes just a little bit. At one point or another, I could translate everything here into more geometrical shapes if I wanted. Like I don't have to use this time true tested fire shape right here. I could do all kinds of things. I could make little diamonds. I could make circles. As long as it moves like fire, it will look like fire. I could use little rectangles. I could do all kinds of fun, really crazy graphic things with it. I could use little X's. There's all kinds of fun things you can do. All right. So, and once again, just reminding everyone that when I was doing, I did this main fire here, and then I painted it with a gradient. And so a gradient is just really simple. In the multi-color wheel mode, I just have orange to yellow. And I just pick those as a linear gradient. And I don't think I want to mess with it too much here. But you just pick a color from the palette here. One thing that you want to do though is when you paint this, when you use that color, when you're using this Fire 3, it has a gradient in it. You can see it right there. There's a gradient. But you have to be able to edit it. And the edit tool is underneath the sub-select tool, which is the white arrow. And you have to edit the gradient texture. So on the stage then, oh, hold on, I'm in the wrong layer, hold on. I'm gonna back out of this and bring the whole thing open again. I'm gonna make sure I'm on the right layer. There. So with my gradient texture edit tool, that one's not painted with a gradient, hold on. That one's not either. Oh, I don't know where I put it. There we go. There we go. All right, so now with the gradient editing tool, as long as you click on it, something that has been painted with the gradient, it will show up like, well, these are messy, but there, that one. So what this is then, is this is the orientation. So you can rotate it like that. So you just wait till you get that little tool. And then this is a compression. So this limits just like that. And it's just really that simple. You can move it around a little bit. You get a different take on it. And so once again, I just clicked on a different part. So once again, it comes in the orientation, it's like completely horizontal. So you do have to mess with it a little bit. There is one cautionary thing here, and that you can see that just with this shape right here, when I picked paint, and I picked the first paint, and I picked this gradient tool right here, when I painted it, it only painted part of it. And I had to click 2 or 3 times. And every single time I clicked, I painted a different gradient in there. So just be careful. It's not as seamless of a process as you would like, because like just within this open shape for the fire, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different gradients, and I had to edit them all separately. Like even this little stupid piece right here is painted with 2 separate gradients. But it's effective. You know, you pick this outside color shape as red and then paint with a gradient. It looks good. You don't have to paint all the parts. You can see that I didn't paint the main bout of the fire with a gradient. I just did these up here. All right, so now what I'd like to do, we talked about water. We talked about our water splash last week. So there's nothing different there. But I would like to talk about rain. So let's do rain off to the side again. Actually, I'm gonna put this away. I'm gonna bring up the bomb or something. I don't think I have anything ready right there. Let's pick up the lightning one. All right, so once again, this part's really simple. The rain is almost one of the easiest special effects to do. So I'm just going to turn off our lightning demo. Does anyone need to see the lightning demo? Anybody? Just chime in right now. Okay, I'll play it. So this was just the lightning demo. Again, we're using that white frame with a black lightning on it. But unlike the explosion, we went from white frame to black frame to white frame. This is just one. You can do 3 if you want. You could do 2, white, black. But I just choose to do white right here. And the lightning here, it's actually pretty simple. It doesn't dissipate. It's just one flash of lightning. Just pick your shape. I have it set in to animate in 3 different parts. The animation for the lightning comes in. It gets a little bigger. It gets even a little bigger, changes a little bit, then the flash with the black. And then it starts to dissipate just a little bit. Make sure that your shapes look like lightning. Make sure that your shapes look like lightning shapes and not digital stylus lines, if you know what I mean. All right, so rain. All right, so with this one, I think the green will go away. Okay, so this is actually really simple. There's only a couple of things to consider. Within this one, we're just going to use a blue color. Again, I always pick a different new color so that I can manipulate it if I need to. So there's a couple of things that you would want to consider. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to switch to this dark gray and just do a couple little thumbnails for you. R for rain. Move it on the top. All right, so my thumbnails are just going to be pretty simple. What I'm thinking of here is got my stage, and any kind of rain that's really near the camera is only going to need 1, 2, 3 drawings to get from in to the main drawing and then out of the frame. So that's all I'm going to need. And so you just need 3 drawings to get anything that's really near the camera. Anything that is a little bit further away from the camera can have 4 or 5. Obviously, you can make the raindrop a little heavier towards the tip of it. They can look like little tadpoles. If the rain is really far away, then it can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't recommend this. It doesn't, you don't need too much of this, but just with the rain that's in the front and the one that's in the midground, foreground, and midground, you can get all kinds of great rain. So I think that rain can come straight down.
So hang on, if it's not that the depth determines the timing, it determines how many droplets per frame, or not droplets, like it almost can be divided into 3, 4, or 6 parts depending on how far from the camera it is?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, think about this. In my little sketch, what if you just saw 1 raindrop come in, and then on the very next frame, all you saw was the tail of it? You know, that's 2. Is it possible? I mean, and it is possible that if you just saw one giant raindrop come in, like right there, and that was it. I mean, it might read like it was painting, like it was moving that way, but it's really not moving that way. You know, it just flashes for 1 frame. So the closer to the camera, the less number of drawings. So in our blue, let's just do a couple of different variations. And again, it's easier to keep the raindrops coming in at just a slight angle. So again, I'm just gonna do the demo for this as it was cycling, because it's important. I don't want you drawing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of frames. So we're just gonna go out on 2s. We're gonna get our onion skin to come back on. We are going to get our onion skin to behave. Okay, so this one's moving pretty quick, so it's just gonna come in here. You could copy and paste it, but you don't need to, just draw it again. Greater than sign, now we're out on frame 5, and I'm just gonna draw it like this. And then we're gonna go to frame 7, and I'm just gonna, hold on a second. Use the wrong key. Frame 7, and we're just gonna draw this tail end of it disappearing just a little bit, All right, then we're gonna do that over again. We're gonna go to frame 1. We're gonna draw another one here that's already into this position. And then now we're gonna use the same key, because we're not, I'm still using the greater than sign, but I'm gonna have to pay attention to where I am. Because it's picking up the in-betweens already. All right, so in this one, I don't need to draw that one there, but I can. So I'm gonna just F5 this one. I'm gonna hit plus. So what I'm gonna do, come on, Tubim, is that like right here, I'm gonna create, I wanna do this on 2s, all of this. So right here, I'm gonna start a new one over here. And this one's just gonna be a little slower. So a little smaller and a little slower. And again, with my greater than sign, and you can tell here that I'm overlapping them. And what this does is it adds to the persistence of vision. It allows your eye to really connect the droplets. And I'll show you what happens if you don't do that here in just a moment. All right, so, and you don't have to worry about it coming back in. Rain doesn't need to do that. But for this one, like right here, let's just draw one at this, but it's coming in a little faster. All right, so now I have to remember where it was. It was right here. So I'm gonna just leave my cursor here and hit the key for G. And so these are just gonna move apparently faster. There's gonna be more of a space between the actual droplets. And then, so let's just take a look at what we've got in the loop right now. All right, so in my eye, I think they're moving just a little slow. So let's see what happens if we take these down to 1s. So I'm just gonna hit the minus key and then my G key to go to the next keyframe. Minus G, minus G, minus G. All right, so now everything's on 1s. Now it looks better. It looks much better. All right, so that's one way of doing this. Let's just do a couple other variations here. This wind that's up close here. Oh, let's do one of the ones we just talked about. Let's just take this one and draw one that's really big. a little rounded right there on the end. And then on the next keyframe, just get it out. So it's just there for 2 frames. So let's see if we can see that one. You know, it starts to work. And you can get away with lots of stuff. This is the rain that's up close here. Let us imagine that there is a horizon back there somewhere. And automatically that changes things, because now the wind that was blowing this way and causing these to just have a little bit of a slant to them, maybe the wind that's in the foreground is a little less and it's falling a little more straight down. Now you could do a couple of things. One is that you can animate all this front stuff on its own layer and control it that way, or you can bring up a new layer. And if you wanted to, you could do as many layers as you want. So this is going to be R2, R1. And so this one might work on 2s a little better. We'll see here. So this wind is not quite so fast. I'm on a new layer, so I'm going to see what this one looks like on 2s. And you can tell just immediately that as soon as you do this, you've got rain that's about 8 to 10 feet away from you. And you know, this is a big raindrop here. And as soon as it hits the ground, you're probably gonna need to do a little splash. So like on this frame here, instead of drawing another continuing of the rain, we're just gonna do like a little splash. And it's gonna need a couple of frames in order for it to read. If there was water on the ground already, you might have the little ripple. Water can dissipate, water can just go away. So it's a little ripple. It can also come back up again. All right, so let's just take a look at that one little bead of rain right there. So it can be really just that simple. Follow it through. You're doing it straight ahead. It's not the craziest, most difficult thing you've ever seen. All right, let me check my notes. Okay, one thing that I did have in my notes that I would like to mention to you, and just let me, this is a new, no, this is the lightning. All right, so what I'm gonna do right here is and if you haven't figured this out already, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna look at this rain stuff that we did right here, the one that was really close to the camera, the 3, the 4, and that is on this R level right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this R level and I'm gonna copy it. I just right-clicked and I'm gonna say copy cells from the timeline. And then I'm gonna put my cursor on the empty frame here, and I could hit paste, or I'm just gonna say right-click and paste cells into the timeline. And so now what I've got, I'm gonna take this limit out to like 120, that's 5 seconds. And I would do the same thing here. So I'm gonna paste the cells in the timeline. I'm gonna take my drawing and my background and my color card. Both of these, I'm just gonna shift select these 2 layers, hit F5, and then I can go back here and then I can just hit paste into the timeline. And I could do it one more time. And you already know what's gonna happen. The rain now is going to continue into the 65 frames area. It's just going to be continuing. If you put a distance, a gap between these 2, and you just say paste the cells from the timeline here, then there's an automatic break, which is kind of nice. The rain doesn't always have to be so persistent right there. But something crazy happens when you do this. On this frame right here, it is technically just a frame. And sometimes it shows up here in the library window as a frame number 1. And when you go and click on frame 73, it's still showing frame number 1, and now it's showing frame number 2 because these are symbols. If you haven't figured this out yet, then just test this for yourself. Do what I just did right there and go to frame number 1, and in some obnoxious green color next to one of the little parts of the water, make a little asterisk. And then play it and watch what happens. That little asterisk keeps coming back because it's a symbol now. Now this thing that you created for this water, by copying and pasting it here down the timeline, now these are symbols, and you can tell here in the symbol library what it looks like. And if you actually zoom in on this, you can tell that there's a little asterisk right there. So it's nice to be able to copy and paste to get things repeated, but it's also dangerous because if you try to fix something in here, it's going to fix it all the way along the timeline. If you try to erase something or add something, it's going to create, you're affecting symbols like you would be doing in Flash. And the idea of even calling it a symbol, let me just bring one up. The word symbol right here is borrowed from Flash, which became Animate. All right, let me just check here. All right, let me pause. It's just big and unwielding, and everything's vector, and you don't want anything to go wrong. So I wouldn't copy and paste in the timeline like that until I knew everything was exactly the way I wanted it. Because symbols can be wonderful, but they can also be very tricky if you try to fix one of them.
Okay.
Any other comments? So yes, I would like to see your volcano next week. Remember that the extension there is going on until Friday, but you're gonna have to let me know, because I believe that midterm grades are due quickly. And I keep everything on a nice tight piece of paper here. And so this is what matters. I don't think that there's a space where they keep track of your progress 1 and midterm and progress 2 grades like coordinated and nice and neat. It's this that matters. If I lose this, you're all screwed.
Oh.
So don't come over to my house and steal my paper, or everyone else will be up a creek without a paddle. I was going to be late, but we're actually done a little early. Let me think about this for just a minute. All right, so just a reiteration on a couple of points. And those are that this is due next week. There should be at least 6 effects in there. Your tornado is going to be due November 16th. We'll do the demo for that next week. Wind, lightning, cycling, flashing, debris. Forgot to write that one in there. Debris. And that's due on the 14th of December. I'm sorry, that's due on the 16th of November, and then the final is due on the 14th of December. What I would do if I were you, and I'm not, because that would be really painful, is go back to my original idea of doing thumbnails for all your projects so you can keep track of what the composition is looking like, what effects you're using, how you want it to be planned out. And that thumbnail is still in the class. I looked at it just today. It's tucked into the discussion area, and it's still showing up as forgot what I called it. And I probably forgot what I called it because I'm in the wrong class. Hold on. Here we go. Thumbs. In the discussion area of the class, it's called thumbs. So make sure you've got everything all set in there. You can see on that outline, that plan, that set of thumbnails that people have, it's a very natural gravitation to want to pick a chemistry lab or some kind of laboratory itself to assemble for your final, so that you've got a little potion brewing. One of you is already doing this, Farah. And so it's nice to keep organized like this. All right, anything else?
Nothing for me.
All right, I will let you go. I will see you at 1:30 next week for your volcano. And there'll be, I'm recording this, so there'll be a version of this up on YouTube in an hour or so.
Cool.
All right, we'll see you next
Great.
week.
See you next week. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, ciao for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.